I asked again, I said, well, just let me know what time you want me to, come into your office the following morning to go over this. And his response was, well, it depends on whether you're going to wear clothes or not.
So I guess we could just start from the beginning, and I'm interested in your career because you've been there for, I believe, 15 years, you said?
That's right.
15 years, and you have your PhD, you've dedicated your life, right, to law enforcement.
Yes.
What were your hopes and dreams when you first came to Johnson County?
Well, as cliche as it sounds, I wanted to make a difference. And I was in academia before I went into law enforcement, and that's when I got my doctorate in management. And then I've been a county employee, actually this month, or August, has been 15 years. And I've been in this position as a training coordinator for about 12 of those years. And just to be able to create lesson plans, have strong curriculum for law enforcement, for dispatchers, for jailers, for them to have the necessary tools, the knowledge to be able to not just use in the classroom, but outside of that classroom. And being able to have that academia background was kind of an easier transition for me in this position.
And so all this time you've been in this community, you've dedicated your life to this work. He became sheriff in 2016, I believe. Was it right off the bat that you say these comments started? How did this begin?
Yeah, no, so it was not right off. Excuse me, I got sick and had some medical issues, and with that, I had to completely change my diet, no sodas, no alcohol, no kind of fast food. So I ate healthier, more whole foods, and with that, I lost a substantial amount of weight. I came back to the office. I was in ICU for about 3 weeks. I was in rehabilitation from speech to occupational to physical therapy for 3 months because of that. Came back in the office in February of 2023, and within about a month or two after coming back to the office is when it started, and that's when the weight loss started. So, and since then, I've probably lost about 130 pounds. So, in my opinion, because I'd been working under him for, now this is the 3rd term, and each term is 4 years. So I've been working under him for all this time, but it never started until the rapid weight loss.
What kind of comments would he make?
In the beginning, it was very just in passing. It would be, hello, Dr. Skinny, and instead of calling me Dr. Goodloe or Anna or Sergeant Goodloe, it was Dr. Skinny. And then he would say, make comments about, I'm looking really good. And he would emphasize that instead of just saying you look nice or you look good, he'd be like, you're looking good. You're looking really good. And you would see his eyes move up and down because his cowboy hat, you can see it shift, up and down.
What's going through your mind when he's saying things like that?
It's just, it's cringy at best. I just want to disappear. I want to run down the hallway and go into someone's office and close the door. I want to get away from that. But I remained professional. One of my nervous tics is that I would kind of laugh or giggle, and I would, I would laugh and I would, walk off. But I would wear sweaters to work a lot. I'd wear turtlenecks. And this would be in the summer, because I'm just trying to disappear at best. As these comments continued, I would try to walk with someone in the hallway with me, just so I didn't feel so alone. But there are a lot of times that I wasn't able to. I would just have to hold my own and, walk proudly and hold my head up. I didn't want him to see that I was rattled, but physically I was a nervous wreck. because it just got so intimidating. And if you pushed back, he's known to retaliate. He's known to be ugly about it. So I just had to kind of endure it until I got to the point that I just flat out could not continue.
Wow. So you did things to try to limit interactions with him.
Yes.
And you say it got worse.
It did. It did.
What was it at the worst moment? What was that moment?
Sometimes it would be phone calls. He had called me on my cell phone and he wanted me to come into his office to talk about an MOU that we were working with another agency. And it was late in the afternoon and it kind of caught me off guard, and I didn't want to go into his office by myself, which I've had in the past, but I just, at that day, I couldn't bring myself to it. And so I told him, I said, well, we can do it tomorrow morning. I said, I get to work at 6 a.m. And he immediately was like, 6 a.m.? He said, that's early enough that you don't have to wear clothes. And I try to redirect the conversation back to the MOU, and after a very short 2-3 minute conversation, I asked again. I said, well, just let me know what time you want me to, come into your office the following morning to go over this. And his response was, well, it depends on whether you're going to wear clothes or not. And it wasn't like the first time he said it, I ignored him on purpose, and then he said it a second time. It just completely broke me.
Was that the final straw for you?
That was. And I remember when that happened, I was shaking like a leaf. I could not hold my hand still. And I remembered I was going to go to the sheriff's office, and because I was not working at the office at that moment, I was off site. And I remembered I was going to turn in my badge and gun to my boss, which is my chief deputy. And the only thing that stopped me was I saw his vehicle, the sheriff's truck, in the parking lot. And when I saw that, I'm like, I didn't want to face him. I didn't want to see him. And I just drove past and went home. And that stopped me from turning in my badge and gun. Had his truck not have been there, I would have quit that day. And I'm thankful that I didn't quit, because coming forward, my name was out there in the indictment, and I wanted to die when I saw it. But there are other victims that have come forward as well. It's not just me. There's a handful of others.
And you've learned this after all of this has unfolded.
That's correct. I never knew other victims existed at the sheriff's office until I came forward. I had no idea. And after I got interviewed by the Texas Ranger, he would ask me, can you provide me some names that you think I should interview, whether they're witnesses or victims or just, I didn't know. And so I would share some names, and then he would interview those individuals, and he would ask the same question. So it kind of spiderwebbed out. And like I said, I thought I was the only one. I had no clue. I had no idea. I just got to that point where it completely broke me, and I didn't want to quit, because I didn't feel like I should have to tuck tail and leave,
And I'm sure that was hard.
Absolutely,
to stay.
absolutely, and it was. I mean, it's been the hardest journey I've ever walked in my life, and I'm an outstanding employee. I've been there for 15 years. I've never been written up. I've had accolades. I've received certifications. I've received several Employee of the Year certificates. I'm an outstanding employee. And for this to happen to me, there was no bearing. There's no reasonings behind it other than his bad behavior, if I want to say it like that. I didn't bring it up. I didn't entice anyone for this behavior to come out.
Going through something like this for over the course of a year and having to see this person day after day, I would imagine emotionally is really hard. So what's the last year been like for you personally?
It has been hell. I've always seen myself as a strong individual, a very even kilter, very level-headed. I'm highly educated. I have a work tenacity. My father has always instilled a very good integrity. And I don't badmouth anyone. I don't badmouth an agency. Overall, I've had very strong support to colleagues, to family, to friends, to the community. There are people I don't even know that are complete strangers that have supported me in this. They may not know me personally, but they've supported me. So that has really balanced out the constant turmoil that I have felt. I don't have good days and bad days. I've got good moments and bad moments. It's up and down, up and down. It's emotionally and mentally exhausting. I didn't know how to act walking down this journey because I've never been down this road before. This past year has been, it's shameful, it's embarrassing because for this to happen for so long, I would tell my husband every moment that it happened, I would let him know. And inside, he was dying for me as well. But he's also a county employee, and he didn't want to push back because he knew the sheriff would retaliate against me. He has seen it happen. And then after that, I would, let my boss know, which is my chief deputy, and he was very adamant of, Anna, we have to talk about it. We have to go forward. We have to make this stop. And it was my decision not to because I knew nothing would happen. But because of a new district attorney, we have a new county judge, they don't tolerate this kind of behavior. And once that had happened, with that transition, I knew that there may be an opportunity for me to be able to walk through to get some kind of a justice, whatever justice would look like, whether it was in the judicial system, whether it was him stepping aside or whether him just stopping that behavior. I didn't know what it looked like, but I knew there was a chance of change. Yeah. So that's kind of how it started with that.
So initially you felt that you didn't want to come forward because you felt there were people in county leadership protecting him and
Yes.
maybe enabling what you say was happening.
100%. And that was my decision not to come forward. And like I said, my chief deputy, did everything he could to try to convince me to make this stop, have these conversations. And I was terrified because I didn't want to whack a hornet's nest. I didn't want that blowback because I knew that's what was going to happen. And I didn't want it to make it worse than what it was already happening to me. And my chief deputy was kind of caught in the middle of, he wanted to do the right thing and he wanted to go forward and have this cease, but then he also wanted to protect me and by not saying anything because he knew it was going to, it wasn't going to be an easy walk if I did come forward. He knew what the sheriff was about. And so that was the reason for it. It wasn't because nothing happened and I was making these outcries for a year. I did not make an outcry until I submitted my formal complaint on June 30th. And within days, a Texas Ranger had already taken this case. So it was very, very swift from the moment that I submitted my formal complaint. But up to that point, it was on me and it was my decision to remain quiet because, like I said, I knew nothing was going to happen. And I knew if anything, I would either get terminated, I would get pushed out, I would get demoted. It was not going to go in the direction that I wanted to go in.
Yeah. But you just got to the point where you couldn't handle what was happening anymore.
That's correct. That's absolutely right. Yeah. And for making those comments of, wanting to do ungodly things to me. And I just, I looked at him as someone who should protect and to serve the community, protect and serve and take an oath. It was completely in an opposite direction. And I couldn't keep doing it. Mentally, emotionally, physically, I would drive into work and I would pull over on the highway and I would literally throw up. I was, from me submitting my formal complaint to about 6 weeks after he got interviewed, the first time he got interviewed by Texas Rangers, I lost about 12 pounds. I was a wreck physically. It was eating me alive. I was terrified because I knew once I pulled the trigger, there was no backing out, you know, and I knew that the Texas Rangers would have to do a thorough and unbiased investigation, and not knowing there were other victims that were coming forward. So even if I said, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want anything to happen to him. I couldn't, because other victims were coming forward, and I had no idea that, you know, he was doing and saying other things to other employees as well. So the cat was out of the bag.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
You said the cat was out of the bag.
Absolutely. So even if I wanted to back up to say, you know, I want it to go away, I'll quit if everything goes back to normal. There is nothing normal about this behavior.
What went through your mind when you started seeing more women come forward?
At first, I was shocked, but it didn't surprise me because the stories, the behaviors were very similar. Maybe not quite as aggressive, but they all had a common denominator, and that common denominator was him.
What happened after you formally reported it?
So just a few days afterwards, I did get interviewed by the Texas Ranger. The interview lasted about 2 hours. And then, you know, I would provide other names as he would ask. And he got interviewed, Sheriff King got interviewed on, I believe, July 17th, which was a few weeks after I did. But they interviewed all the other victims and witnesses. Once he got interviewed, within hours, he came back to the sheriff's office, got some folks together, and started putting together a conspiracy story. And his first one was that I approached him and that I solicited sex, and he rejected me and said I was ungodly. And because he rejected me, his story was of these false allegations. Then he had another conspiracy theory that my boss, the second in command, my chief deputy, wanted to become sheriff, so he felt that us two were conspiring to try to take him down. And all of these conspiracy theories were just with me. I don't think he did not realize there were other victims as well.
What do you make of that? Because he's been out saying the sheriff has denied all of these allegations in the indictment. Mm-hmm. Supporters are coming out to say he would not do this. Mm-hmm. What's going through your mind as you see what's being said out in the public?
You know, he's a pillar in the community, and he has a legacy to uphold. And at first I thought he would minimize it, or he would agree to a little bit, but not all of it. But I didn't think he would completely dig in his heels and completely deny, because there's a half dozen other victims, and you can't deny 100% to a half dozen other people that have come forward. I realize he has to spin a narrative. I understand he has to try to get ahead of it, and other people who, see him going to church, being an elder of the church, being some type of ministry that he may be in, they may look at him as a godly man, and that regardless of who comes forward, they may never believe those stories. They may not believe one victim, but if 4 come forward, if 7 come forward, how many victims have to come forward for them to believe it? So that's the kind of way that I look at it, is he has to be ahead of it, and to save his face, to save his legacy, to possibly save whatever he may have in that community, he has to detach himself from this And I think this is the only way that he's trying to do it.
Your complaint led to an indictment of a sitting sheriff in Texas. How proud are you of that?
You know, I'm very, very proud of it, because by me speaking on this, I'm hoping that it gives a voice to every other victim, not just at my agency, but in corporate America and at other agencies. I want them to be able to see that regardless of how much is stacked up against you and how monumental it may look, you still have a voice. You still can make a difference. And whatever that difference may look like, you have to be able to speak up and speak the truth and just put it out there that you're not a doormat. You're not going to take that and continue to take it in the workforce. By no means. You know, there's things out there that protect people, you know, resources, there's laws, there's other coworkers that can protect you, and you have to utilize those resources. You have to.
Yeah. What do you say to people who, because this is not easy for
No.
you to talk about it, know that it's uncomfortable for you, you want privacy.
Yes.
You don't like that your name was out in the indictment. There are still people out there who will deny your story. What do you say to them?
You know, I think there's a lot more who do believe, not just necessarily my story, but other victim stories that share the same experience. So the few that don't or won't believe my stories, they've already made up their mind, regardless of what evidence is out there, regardless of what testimony is out there. You know, we swear to an oath that we will speak the truth. And if they've already made up their mind that they won't believe it or can't believe it, it's just such small numbers that I'm not going to pay attention to that. To me, that's just white noise, and I'm not going to focus on the very few when there's so many others that support victims coming forward and speaking the truth and not being that doormat and not being allowed to be treated like this. You know, I was just completely humiliated, and I felt like, you know, I didn't have a voice at that time. And then once I started to stand up and speak, I'm like, you know, it's the right thing to do. You know, like I said earlier, I wanted to die when I saw my name on that indictment. You know, and other people were sharing it on social media and, you know, screenshotting it and sending it to me. But then I thought, you know, I wanted to put a face to a name and show them what a victim looks like. It's just a normal, everyday looking person. You know, I don't look any different than anyone else would in the workforce, you know.
And you felt that it was important to share your story.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's not just my story, it's every other victim out there. I'm speaking their story as well.
What really prompted you, 'cause I know initially when this all went down and the indictment came out, maybe you felt like, no, I'll never get out there and share. That's so uncomfortable. But what was it? Was there like something that happened that made you feel like it's time?
Collectively, it was a few things. You know, I have the support from my husband. I have the support from my chief deputy. He encouraged me to do this. He encouraged me to talk about it. You know, I have the support from my agency, from law enforcement, from the community. Regardless of what, you know, Sheriff and some of his followers have done out in the community, I felt it was important to talk on the behalf of the victims. I wanted them to understand that there's two sides of the story, and I'm not, you know, at liberty to discuss a lot of those details, but it will come out, and I want people to see that, you know, he may be spinning his narrative, but there's another side to that coin as well, and I want to be the voice of those victims as well. And like I said, the support from, you know, from my boss, the chief deputy, my husband, my attorney, they've all said it's a good thing that you do speak.
Yeah. What do you hope that this leads to?
I want it to lead to some form of justice, whatever it may look like. I trust the judicial process. I trust that a fair and unbiased investigation is ongoing. I trust the process, and I want justice to be served. Whatever that may look like, I don't know. But I am stepping aside. I've provided my statements. I provided my testimony, and others have provided theirs. And I'm just I'm relying on that to work its course.
There's now an acting sheriff, and Sheriff King is on administrative leave. Do you think Sheriff King should step down?
I do. And the reason for it is because I don't know how he's going to be able to come back from this. I think that he has tarnished the everything around him because of spinning such such toxic behavior. I think having someone come in and boost the morale and bring up the agency, I think it will allow the community to heal. Right now, it's broken. And I think that having someone come in, whoever that may be, I think that would be a positive outlook. I think it would go and be in the right direction. I don't know how he could come from this. I don't know how he can come back from this.
Did your role change after you reported this? What kind of retaliatory actions do you say he took?
For me, he changed my schedule, my days, the hours that I work. He changed my location. In the beginning, he wanted, I was at work, and he wanted me to continue to stay at work. He didn't want me to work from home. He didn't want me to appear like I was on vacation. He didn't want to reward bad behavior. And bad behavior was by me coming forward. And he wanted me to look him in his eyes. And I did come back to work. My chief deputy told me, and I said, you know what, I don't feel comfortable doing it, but I will comply, and I did. And I went back to work for about 3 days, and he was intimidating me. He would, pass several bathrooms to come to the bathroom across from my office, which is about 10 feet away. He would come out of the office, he'd look at me and shake his head in disgust. It was intimidating at best. And so I told my chief deputy, I was like, I can't keep working in this environment with him. And he agreed. So that's when they decided to put me at another facility in the county. And then I had to get set up for a workstation. And then that's when my chief deputy said, along with the district attorney and the county judge, said, it'd be good if she continued to work from home, for them to be separated. They don't need to be working in the same building. And everyone agreed except sheriff, And then I did start working from home. So that has been able to give me a breather. 95% of my work is remote anyways. So there's been no bump in the road of me not being productive and not me being able to work. I'm still cranking out my stuff at work. The only difference is just the location.
Do you feel unsafe today?
Yes and no. I try not to dwell on it. I know he has made threats to me. It does scare me. It does frighten me.
What kinds of threats has he made?
So from what I've heard from others, that he would make me disappear, and then I heard the story that he would make it disappear as the charges disappear. And then I've heard that he asked for my physical address. It's rattling at best. But I will say that I don't go out anywhere without someone with me, and I do protect myself, and I have to. I'm a peace officer, so I do carry when I am alone. If I'm, walking late in the evening or early in the morning, I have to watch my back. I keep my head on a swivel. Am I scared? No. Am I concerned? Yes. But I can't live in fear. I can't. I can't.
Are you comfortable so far with how things have been handled? Him not being allowed to come to county offices? Are you okay with how things are handled?
Yes.
Would you want to see something different at this point?
No, I think everything has been handled very professionally, very swift. Sometimes I wish it was a little bit quicker, but I understand the process. The county as a whole, the agency, the jurisdiction, the whole system, they are doing their part, and I appreciate it. I respect it. And I'm very, very thankful. I'm grateful for that process. So yes, I'm very happy with the way that things are turning and the way that things are going. Very much so.
There are so many layers to this. What's been the hardest part for you?
Um, I think a lot of it, the ones that matter support me. I try to ignore the white noise, but the hardest thing will be when that time comes for me to go back into the office. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how people are going to treat me, because by me coming forward, I potentially may have rattled their ladder in what their career looks like. Because if they were carrying his water, and if they're no longer carrying his water, I don't know what I've rattled on their end. I want people to support me, but if they don't, I understand it. I get it. I may not like it, but there's two sides to every coin, and if they choose the other side of that coin, I respect it. I may not like it, but I have to accept it. But it is concerning of me going back into that environment. I was scared when I left, and I'm going to be scared whenever that time goes back to go back into that same environment. Yeah, I am. I don't know what it looks like, because I've changed as a person, and I'm sure other employees have changed as well, and I don't know what that change looks like.
You just have had so many different feelings, from shame to fear, and just, I can't imagine like the last year for you, but thank you for sharing everything. Is there anything I didn't ask that you want to talk about?
I can't think of anything. I just, my dignity and all the other victims' dignity is so important, and I want them to understand that, not to be afraid and not to fear that they can't come forward. This was such a, it was such a tall order for me to come forward, and I didn't think that I would ever have it in me to come forward. I just wanted to put my head down and do my job. And by doing that, made me become a victim, because I don't know if it looked like I was easy prey. I don't know. I don't know at all. But I just want other victims to understand that regardless of where they're at, they have a voice, and I want them to be able to find it within themselves to come forward, wherever that may be, whatever it may look like. I want them to understand they can come forward as well.
Yeah. Just a few other quick little questions that I just thought of. So it was always verbal.
Yes.
Was it ever physical?
Never, not once. There was no touching whatsoever. It was all verbal. There was at no point, even though it escalated and even though it got very aggressive, from me bending over, picking up files, and him telling me back in his younger days I wouldn't want to know what he did to women wearing white pants. Comments like that, wanting to do ungodly things to me if I continued to lose weight. It was all verbal. He never touched me at all, never made any kind of contact, which I'm glad that he didn't, but it just still felt just as evasive and as violated as anything else.
It still felt like deep harassment.
Very much so.
Yeah. Did you ever say, "What did you say to me?" Or, "Hey, that's out of line," or was it just too uncomfortable to go there?
Yeah, it was very, very much uncomfortable to go there. And I felt that if I pushed back, because I've seen other people push back, not necessarily in a harassment way, but push back on him, I see what he does. And he retaliates. He'll he gets ugly. He gets nasty about it. And I didn't want any more turmoil on me. So I just continued to keep taking it. And like I said, one of my nervous tics is that I laugh it off. I giggle. I smile a lot. And I don't know if to him that was an inviting manner for him to say it was okay to continue. I don't know. But I think any common person in the workforce would know that's bad behavior and it's not acceptable. But to him, maybe he just felt that no one was going to stop him, and he just continued, and he did.
What would be like the resolution in the end that you would like to see?
You know, for it to cease. You know, now obviously it has, because I'm working from home and he is on administrative leave. But, you know, for this to cease at the workplace, you know, I want people to be able to go to work, do their job, and not feel like they have to be harassed and that they can't do anything without retaliation. You know, if they want to be able to speak the truth, that they can without feeling like their jobs are going to be in jeopardy. And I just want to be able to go back to the office and just continue to be that shining employee that I once was before all of this happened.
You want to stay.
I do, absolutely. I don't want to quit my job. I don't want to leave. I didn't do anything wrong. You know, if there are those that felt what I did was wrong, was to come forward and put my foot down to say this is wrong, again, that's white noise to me. You know, I did nothing wrong, absolutely nothing. I did not do anything for his behavior to be inviting to me. I didn't ask for it, by no means, and none of the other victims asked for it.
Is there anything that you want to say that we haven't covered?
I think bottom line is what the sheriff did was wrong. I think deep down he knows it was wrong. It's unclear at this point whether or not his followers and his friends know, but he knows what he did was wrong.
Will we see some sort of hard evidence as this plays out?
Absolutely.
Evidence that people don't know about?
Yes.
And it'll be crystal clear.
Yes.
Of what happened.
It will be crystal clear what happened.
What's next in the investigation and in this criminal trial, criminal and civil?
We're not in charge of the criminal trial, and so that's going to progress as the prosecutors, handle it. It's my understanding that his arraignment has been set, perhaps next month, but we really don't know about that, and that's not in our domain. As far as the civil matter goes, well, that's going to be something that my law partner and I discuss on, when we file and how we handle her case moving forward. And much of that is going to relate to how the county handles her moving forward and whether or not she's restored to her position with the same hours and the same location, just as it was before the retaliation.
So you haven't formally filed a civil suit, just so I know?
Not yet.
Okay. So you don't know yet, like, what the civil suit will be targeting, like what the aim will be of the civil suit?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Like, what will the aim of the civil suit be? Will it be for job protection for Anna? Will it be seeking something against the sheriff? Like, what will the goal of the civil suit be?
We're still working on the complete goal of the civil suit.
You're confident that there will be proof in the end?
I'm 100% confident there will be proof, not even just at the end, but in the near future, that he is guilty of the behaviors that he's accused of.
There's some hard evidence that people don't know about yet?
That is correct, there is.
What do you hope that evidence will prove? Like, Will it be crystal clear once we see that evidence?
It will be clear when the evidence comes out that the victims are telling the truth, that they're not liars, and these conspiracies that are floating around out in the internet and amongst some of the sheriff's supporters, those theories are going to be disproven.